Hey, Iris, are you ready to go?
I am. I just am going to, I'm just wanted to mention Lydia Clayton, who I got this really cool smart desk from, and also 2 screens. So anyway, I'm having a little bit of technology issues, and I just was remembering her and being grateful. So anyway, for those of you who knew her. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, and then I'm going to hit play on this. All right, so could you tell me if you're seeing 1 screen or 2 screens?
We're seeing the presenter view.
Okay, thank you. There we go. So now it should be 1.
Yep.
So I just really appreciated what Ken shared, and kind of his overview, and then diving into some of those details. So that was really interesting. And I will cover the smart water meter. But I thought we could start with a quick overview of the irrigation system and a review of the controllers and how they relate, and then with the focus being on this every drop meter. So I will hold this up, and this is the every drop meter, and there's one company, it's kind of like the Apogee Light meter, where they, this one company saw a need in the marketplace for a water flow meter, and so I'll be going into that. I will present a little bit of Soil Stewards Student Farm irrigation data, and then some links of where to go for more information. Okay. So just an overview of irrigation. Basically, we're taking water and we're getting it to our plants, and we want to have some valves, either that's controlled manually, or ideally we have some mechanical valves that open and shut with some sort of controller. Okay, so then I collapsed my blue overview of irrigation into the 3 blue ones you see here. And then what we're adding to the system is these smart controllers, and I put 4 different commercial examples listed there, because it's not like, we're telling people what to buy, but it is hard when you do these Google searches to know what you're getting, kind of for your money and things like that. So there is a bit of a product review through this presentation. You're going to need a power source once you add those controllers. It can be as simple as a battery inside that controller. And then the water meter, that's what we're looking at today. And that links down to this, the bottom orange one, where we're getting some sort of feedback loop with sensors and weather data that are going back to that smart controller, so we can make those nuanced adjustments, or it could be big adjustments. Okay, so if you are new to irrigation system design, if you've just been, hand watering or, setting up sprinklers or something like that, then these 3 links can help you just understand a little bit more about the physics of irrigation design, and so what the parts of the system are and things like that. So the irrigation design, the way that I learned it, started with sprinklers for lawns, because I, studied landscape architecture. And then I have always been excited about drip irrigation, because you're giving the plant water at the root zone, and ideally just the amount that it needs, rather than, spraying lots of water and wasting water. So we are looking at controllers and valves, and that's one of the things we're adding to this system. And so you're getting a valve that will be controlled from electricity, and so then you are going to need a little bit more power for that system, and I'll show you some options for that. And then we're adding this smart technology, so that we can see on our computer or our phone what we're getting with that. And then that ability to respond to weather data or sensor input. Okay, so the Smartflow meter that we are featuring today, the every drop meter, is shown here in this photo. This is taken at the Soil Stewards Farm. Tad Wheeler is in the photo, and so he has his hand on the meter, and then in his right hand he has the sensor. And so you can, if you have an existing irrigation system, you can add this to that system, and it's going to collect water use data. And the main benefit of this water meter is that if you get a leak, it will shut off the water system. So a lot of rural landowners, you know, have to have day jobs. They go away, they come back, and something broke in their water system, and they had a gusher. It drained, you know, their tank or their well, and then their pump wore out because the pump was trying to, you know, keep working. So I've heard that story quite a bit, and so this would prevent that situation. So, and then I should say the cost of these ones are around $100. Some that they're, you know, between $90 and $100, but you are going to need to have some of these other components that may be a little bit more expensive too. So I'll give you some lower cost options if you want to kind of plan and save up for, you know, a system. This might be about $500 to get all the different things that you need. So just to kind of back up and say, like, what is the information? What are we getting? So if you have a smart controller, basically you're planning and telling it like how long you want it to water, but that doesn't necessarily tell you how much water you put on. And so the Smartflow meter combined with a sensor can tell you how much water you put on, and that would be in gallons per minute. And then the sensors are going to tell you a moisture percentage as well as the temperature. And then the weather data can tell you how much evapotranspiration. So I'll give you an example of that. And then I was trying to look up while Ken was presenting of what is the actual data that the soil moisture meter is giving. And I didn't see that it's in Cinnabars. So I need to learn more about that, because those sensor data, the sensor data that goes with this meter is measuring soil percentage, but it will work well with our heavy clay soils here. And so I'll add that into your checklist if you're thinking through this planning ahead. And so this is kind of like, you know, are you an extension educator or are you a farmer? You know, we kind of have two different sets of information that we need there. Okay, so some things from the Every Drop Smart Water Meter website and how you get some information. So if you have not enough water, you can get an alert through your smart controller. If you have too much, you know, you can set it for a shut off. You know, if so many gallons have gone out and that's your, you know, kind of excess limit, then you would set it to shut off. And then if there's no water going at all. So those are things you would want to know about if you're away, or if you have a bigger farm. You want those alerts so that, you know, you don't get that water stress on the plants either way. And then just some of the features here are listed on this slide. Your water pressure, you would need a component to control that water pressure to be below 30 gallons per minute if you have a lot of water supply. And people have different situations. Some wells are not, you know, putting out very much water, or the tank isn't high enough to give you that pressure. So those are kind of those things that are site specific. And I will just mention on the physics side of things, this water meter is innovative because it uses a vortex technology that up until now has been, you know, too expensive for these sorts of applications. So I think there are a lot of companies that are trying to make these technologies just more affordable for kind of the everyday user. Okay, and then this is another graphic from their website just illustrating these situations where you need alerts so that you can fix your system. Okay, so turning to the Soil Stewards Farm, I have worked this last summer with Allison Detgens and Tad Wheeler, and so Tad is really, you know, coming more from the engineering side and provided some great information, and I've been learning from him as well. So this is kind of that overview of the different components you would need or could have. If you don't have a smartphone, I think you can still get that data to your computer, but it is helpful to be able to have it, on your phone and be able to make adjustments quickly. And then this is the sensor that I mentioned, and it just goes down to that first, 6 inches of the root zone, and it's taking temperature data from the soil and also the moisture percentage. This is an example of some of the data for the different zones that came through the Soil Stewards Farm, and we're getting this collective total over a 1-month period that we used 12,000 gallons during that period. So that's good to know, especially if, like how often do we need to refill a tank if we're using a tank. This system just goes straight from the well to the irrigation system. This is another graph of the data, and if you look at the green, that is the overall gallons, those bigger bars, and then the zones that had feedback information are these yellow and blue. And so you can see that less water is being used. It's a little hard to interpret these bar charts sometimes, but the blue and the yellow are using less water because they're getting that sensor information. Okay, here's another one that is showing the different zones and then stacked up how much water is being used. And so like the goal here is to say like, well, pumpkins maybe need that even water over the season, but tomatoes, sort of when your fruit's coming on, you want to back the water down. And so this is the kind of system where you could make those adjustments. This meter can keep track of various zones as long as they're coming on at different times. And so, because a lot of people cannot water the whole farm at once, then you would know, how much you're using in each zone if you're sequentially turning on different valves. So, okay, and then I thought this was an excellent slide as well because, again, Tad's slide, that you can see the letters here, ET. That's not the little creature from the movie, just kidding. But it is evapotranspiration. And so this system is able to respond to the evapotranspiration and reduce the water by 28%, which I think is significant. So I'm calling it nuanced, but that could really save you a lot of gallons. In our area here on the Palouse, we've been seeing our aquifer supply going down, and so any of the farmers that are able to do this where they are watering would be beneficial. Okay. So just some other low-cost options. Both of these other systems are about $50 on Amazon. The Beehive actually can use the weather data, not from your farm, but from that weather data that is being collected at different weather stations, and so you can make it some adjustments. So if you don't have the $500 to invest in the more expensive component, this could be a way to get started. Gardena is also another product. It doesn't have any smart features, but you can see the gallons that you have been putting out, and you can see that over the season, but just by reading that little digital readout. These are some of the sources. So here's an Amazon page showing the price. So that Beehive one, it looks like it's about $45, and there's some other ones, and I'll show you a couple links that you can see what some of the reviews are for these. DripWorks is a common one that a lot of the small acreage farmers use to buy their drip tape and their other irrigation systems. Every drop has their own website just for this water flow meter. So if you want to buy one, that's where you would go for that. If you have one that doesn't have the digital display, it still will feed that information to your smart controller. So it gets its power by being hooked up to your smart controller, and that was in one of the past slides. And then Rainbird is the one that I am most familiar with because they have created the drip systems for the residential landscape market, and it's easy to use and easy to understand. They don't seem to have any smart controllers yet, and I predict that they will be kind of getting on board with the smart controllers, but not yet. And then Spruce is the controller that Tad had in his slide that I just showed you, that kind of communicates, and that one's about $250 for that controller. So these are the links for the reviews, and I can post that in the chat, you know, when I get done, and also, you know, Kate's going to have that spot to post these. So TechHive just reviewed some of these smart sprinkler controllers, and so I think it's good to read some of these reviews before you are investing in the system. And then gardeningfreak.com, kind of a fun name, they also have a review. Okay, so just to kind of recap, what do you need to do? I think, you know, if you're taking notes right now, kind of thinking about what is it you need to learn more about, and then comparing, you know, sort of what you have with where you want to be. So just that kind of goal setting. So evaluating your system, do you have a power source? Do you need a new spigot somewhere or faucet on the farm or in the garden? Do you need additional supplies or equipment? I mean, that would be the goal of, you know, advancing here. And then you would want to create a drawing, kind of like what's shown here in this graphic, where you're planning your new system element. You are going to want to draw out a graphic of these elements in succession. And so starting with your water source over here, and what is not shown in this graphic that I always like to mention is a backflow preventer. And so that keeps your water supply from getting contaminated. And so if you're using your drinking water also for watering your garden, you definitely want to have that, because otherwise you can get dirt and other contaminants sucked back into the system if you don't have that backflow preventer. So you definitely want to have that on your list. Here's your controller, and then a valve and feeding out to your crops. So here's some questions for you. And then I think one of the things that was really important that Reed and Ken talked about is, you know, what soil type do you have? So before you spend money on sensors, you would want to, you know, call the spruce company and make sure that you know, that little 6-inch or 8-inch sensor is going to work with your soil type. So I would do that sort of communication. I guess everyone does it via chat or email now, but I would try to get that answered before you purchase. But it's definitely going to work with our blue soils. You know, we've been using it on the farm at the Soil Students Farm. So, and I should mention that that system has been funded by a USDA AFRI grant that we're working on to investigate how small acreage producers can scale up in our area. All right, so it's not really homework, it's sort of a joke, I guess, but Tad created a pretty good video tour overview of the farm irrigation system, and so I think you guys will want to watch that. It's very interesting, and he kind of shows how we use solar panels to power that, and he is going to be creating more videos. So that link will get posted, and you can kind of see how it fits in with that system. And if we had more time, you know, that's something we could watch and then discuss with questions. Okay, and so final slide here is just showing this gusher, that's something that broke, and there's a water leak, and so if you have that water flow meter, it can shut that off, and so your leak isn't, you know, just gushing all day. So probably went through that faster than I'm not sure exactly how much I'm here. 10:40. Okay, yeah, just about right. So.
Yeah, perfect. Leaving times for questions. So Iris, so what people got with their Smartflow meter, is that going to be sufficient, or to be able to receive information in terms of how much water is being applied in their system, or are there other components that are missing?
Yeah, so the thing of it is, you know, all the other tools that we have seen in the series are tools that you can use kind of on their own, whereas this one, it really does need to be linked to some sort of controller. And there are, you know, 4 different controllers that you can link it to. It needs to be installed, and this one uses kind of traditional plumbing where you would hook it up to your PVC pipe. You would need that glue that's really stinky and you don't want to breathe it. And that's kind of a traditional plumbing method. I also predict that they will have one that screws in, just like the drip works and the Rainbird stuff. You just, you kind of push it together and you don't have to use any glue. And so that will probably be coming, but you could glue this to some of those components and then out in the field, be able to put that together. But yeah, you're going to need some other components. So.
Okay, well, we may have to consult with you. I got one for our community garden, and we're trying to get that all together using large barrels for reservoirs. And then I thought if we could measure how much was actually getting out, but I'll need to have something else in addition, huh?
Yeah, and the rain barrels also, I found for these low pressure systems, they need to be elevated because they just don't have enough water pressure. If you have them just like, one brick above the ground,
Okay.
height, and so that can be calculated.
Excellent. Do we have some more questions?
Oh, yes. Let me put all the links in. I had sent the link to the Soil Stewards Farm video to some people, but they didn't have access. So I'm trying to figure out with Amy Calabretta how to get access to that video and make sure we can make it available on the YouTube site. So.
Yes, I'm the one with questions all the time. If you were on a budget, what would you recommend? Would that be that Beehive technology or?
Yeah, I think that Beehive one is a great way to start, and it's not necessarily going to link to this sensor is the only thing about that. So
yeah,
you are going to.
That gives you data. It said something I saw on your Amazon screenshot. It does connect to your phone though, right?
Yes, the Beehive one has a smart technology that can communicate with your phone, and you just need a little battery in there to keep it going, and then it will tell you when the battery's getting low. You'll get an alert. So I like that one for the the $50 price range.
So Iris, what would you recommend that would make this system work as a controller that would work with this?
I recommend the Spruce one as far as just the technology, and I think you can get it for around $200. I hope that's not outside of your garden budget, Kate.
So that is the one that is it Tad had?
Yeah, and so in the video you can see we tried out some different ones, and that technology is still being innovated. We had a workshop. Mackenzie was there last year in March. We had an in-person workshop right before COVID blew up, and there are some small acreage farmers who have retired from software design. So Emily and Luke Black, and they actually created their own technology that works through their phone, their own app. And I've also read online some other farmers who've done that. So that app technology, can be self-created, but it is a bit of a computer programming effort.
Maybe we can have Emily do a cultivating success workshop. Any more questions?
It was when Iris was talking, I was just fooling around seeing how much the sensor and data logger would cost. So I dropped those Spruce ones in a shopping cart, and I went to the checkout to see how much they cost, and it was in Dubai, and I don't even know what the currency was. So I guess you gotta be careful when you're on the internet.
Yeah, be careful. Yeah, each of those sensors, I think when you buy the Spruce controller, it comes with 1 or 2 sensors. So you could put one in, some separated rows. And then each of those sensors is around $50. So yeah, that's why my estimate is overall, if you didn't have anything, you would probably want to budget around $400 or $500 to kind of get everything. If you don't have any irrigation system but hoses and sprinklers, the drip tape and tubing, is going to be an add-on to that. So,
Okay.
But if you already have some of those components, then you're just looking at, you know, maybe $250. So
Fascinating. That's what I really want to do a workshop on this summer. People really need drip systems in their home gardens. We have to pay for our water, and it saves so much, and the plants are so much better, and the weeds are less. And I know that it would be well attended. Hopefully, and I also wanted to put in a plug for getting a vaccination. I am so excited. I'm actually getting a vaccination today. And it is targeted for educators. My husband's been researching this, and you just have to get a hold of your health district, and sometimes they have slots that are, well, these were for teachers, but and I said, well, I'm an educator for U of I, and they said, well, yeah, just bring your ID, that's fine. We don't want it to go to waste, so don't hesitate.
Wow. We gave them to all our teachers at our local school district, and I'm on the school board. And I said, well, we're important. And they said, nope, I can't get one at the school. I got to get one at the clinic. Darn.
Well, it may have been an exception because it was like they had slots and they don't want it to not be used. But
that's cool, though. Good.
Yeah, don't just wait around. Too many people are like my mom, who's 87, is like, well, I'm just going to wait for a gilded invitation. Don't do that. Go get out there and get one.
Yeah.
So we can teach and not be getting infected. Okay, if you have any more questions, just jump in. But I think Carmen's got some words. She's here today to talk about SARE.
Yeah, so I just wanted to thank all of our speakers that have presented over the past 2 weeks. I think this was a great training, and I found a lot of value in it and learned a lot of things that I did not know about the instruments. And so I think that'll be useful to apply in my county. And I just wanted to put a little plug in for the 2021 Idaho SARE Professional Development grants that we'll have starting this spring. So the way that they did the state professional development grants for the next 3 years is we apply once and then we kind of do a 3-year project, and we'll get our funds 1 year at a time. But there's one overarching project that will cover the next 3 years, and that's the meal kit training program. So this program will be to train across the state in kind of like a community-based training for individuals that are interested in putting together meal kits for their local communities. So this could be farmers market groups, local community gardens, or individual producers that have CSAs or something like that are interested in learning how to put together a meal kit. And so these will start hopefully this spring in person if we're allowed to do that. If not, we will try and do something online before kind of that farmers market season gets going so that people can apply it this year. And then we'll also have the traditional mini grants that we've had over the past few years. We'll have a little bit of funding each year to fund those. And that can go to buying supplies, covering honorariums, field rental fees if you're going to do field research, things like that. So as soon as we get funds transferred, I will put out that call for proposals. Hopefully in the next month or two, I think those funds should be here so we can start those projects going. If you guys have any questions, always you can email Kate and I, and we can work through. We're just closing out one grant, like Kate said. So hopefully we have all of those things lined out, and we'll have it closed out and then starting this new one.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for these 6 presenters doing these great talks, and we will have them all posted separately, and I'm sure you can get the PowerPoint slides. We have them as PDFs and the links and all that, and we'll have that link to that area on the Cultivating Success website sent to you when we're done. You'll get a survey here shortly for this workshop, and we're trying to get an impact statement out on this. So really appreciate your input on that. And one last thing I'm telling people, we have the North Idaho Cereal Schools, but it's via Zoom, so you wouldn't have to necessarily be in Idaho. It is, today is their registration deadline. I'm trying to think of the easiest way to find the link is probably Facebook, or just contact me. And there are 2 credits per day, next Wednesday and Thursday mornings from 8:30 to 11 via Zoom. Does anybody else have something they want to jump in and share? Okay, hearing no questions, I'll call this meeting to an end, and good luck everybody, stay healthy, and thank you for helping. Thanks to the presenters today especially.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Bye.